KTVI St. Louis. Here's Fox 2 News Midday. Fox 2 News. Here's to St. Louis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. 3 members of the same family are dead this midday after a head-on collision along I-70 in Wentzville.
Right now, only 1 member of the Park family is alive after being flown to a hospital. Fox 2's Ron Corning is at Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital now. Ron?
That's right. He was life-flighted here last night, 8-year-old Timothy Park, and he is in serious condition this midday. Also, the driver of the car that hit the Park family car is also in serious condition. All of this happened last night around 8:45. And this midday, there is little indication what caused the accident. This mangled heap of metal is all that's left of the Park family car. Deborah Park was driving west on I-70. This car, traveling east, crossed the median. Deborah and 2 of her children, David, age 14, and 10-year-old Christina, were killed. 8-year-old Timothy survived. Today, debris litters the area where the 2 cars came to a stop. Accident reconstruction experts. No alcohol and drugs were not factors, and speed was not involved. No skid marks on the road indicate the 24-year-old St. Louis woman could have grown drowsy at the wheel. You can see where the car crossed over right here at the beginning of a stretch of guardrail that meets a concrete barrier that then winds around the corner. Now, that barrier and guardrail been extended just about 50 more feet. The outcome here could have been very different. Is this a case in point that barriers around corners should be extended?
You could make that argument. We've worked wrecks here before, but the problem is, where do you stop with the wall? Do you put it all the way through? The last crossover wreck I worked was a perfectly straight stretch of roadway. News spread quickly through the Wentzville neighborhood the Parks call home. With their trampoline and tire swing, their backyard was a playground for neighborhood kids. And now parents here have to deal with the difficulty of explaining a tragedy.
I'm just going to tell them that anything could happen and just explain to them they're in a good place.
Through the window of the Parks house, the family pet just seems to be waiting for someone to come home. And we are back out live now at Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital. I was told by an officer there on the scene that none of the Park family were wearing seatbelts, and that if the ones in the back seat especially had been wearing seatbelts, that maybe one of the other children would have survived this crash. Gina and DJ?
That is too bad. Have there been any other problems on that stretch of road before, Ron?
Well, the way I understand it, even though that curve is quite slight there on I-70, there have been problems there with the roadways turning slick under certain weather conditions. They have texturized the road. They put some grooves there, and I'm told that that has cut back on what could have been some potential tragedies there. But the way I understand it, last night the conditions were good, and so still they can only speculate that the driver of that other car might have just grown drowsy at the wheel, Gina.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Okay.
Well, the NTSB could wrap up its investigation into last Wednesday's fatal bi-state bus accident as early as today. 4 people were killed, 3 others injured in that mishap. Investigators are hoping to interview the St. Louis County police officers who were on the scene first. Then they'll be taking all that data back to Washington to put it together and come up with their best scenario of what happened. The first of 4 funerals was held this morning. 88-year-old Ernest Morgan was laid to rest.
The search continues today for an Illinois man thought to have drowned in Franklin County. 46-year-old Laura Freeman of Cahokia has been missing since early yesterday morning. His boat was found drifting in the water, and his car was found parked at the launching area of Lake St. Clair.
Patients who rely on St. Louis City's health clinics don't know who will be providing their health care next month. Regional Health Care has been operating the 4 facilities, but their contract with the city runs out at the end of the month. St. Louis Mayor Clarence Harmon explains working out a new arrangement is taking longer than he expected.
We don't have a lot of time, and there are, as I speak, very intensive negotiations and discussions going on. I might tell you and everybody, the viewing audience, that this has occupied an enormous amount of time into the first few weeks of my administration trying to deal with this issue.
Services at Regional Hospital already have been cut back to just 10 beds.
Boatman's Bank is history today. Awnings that have been covering the signs at Boatman's Bank branches around town came down and made room for the Nations Bank signs. They celebrated Day 1 in St. Louis with fireworks, music, and balloons. Nations Bank is promising gifts to the St. Louis area and a major commitment to low-income neighborhoods.
Well, if you don't have enough reasons to watch your blood pressure, here's one more. A new federal study is suggesting a link between hypertension and brain tissue loss as you get older. The study seems to show that ignoring high blood pressure could lead to brain damage and loss of some abilities as you reach your early 70s. Defense Secretary William Cohen defends his investigation into Gulf War illness. In Kuwait today, Cohen dismissed newspaper reports outlining a General Accounting Office report critical of Pentagon and White House studies of the war. Cohen says he hasn't read the New York Times report, but claims the criticisms are nothing new.
More news from the Middle East this midday. Islamic guerrillas have killed an Israeli soldier and wounded 3 others in a roadside blast in South Lebanon. An Israeli tank ran over a roadside explosive charge in the eastern sector of Israel's South Lebanon occupation zone. One soldier received serious injuries in the blast and was rushed to a hospital where he later died. 3 other soldiers suffered serious but not life-threatening injuries. Violence continues to mar the West Bank. 8 Palestinians are dead in the 3rd day of clashes between Israeli soldiers and Palestinians. In Hebron, Palestinian youths hurled stones at Israeli soldiers armed with rubber bullets. Doctors say this 11-year-old boy was severely injured with wounds to his chest and his face. In Gaza, Jewish settlers showed their dismay by climbing atop tractors trying to mow down journalists at the scene. The recent uprisings are being blamed on a U.S. House of Representatives resolution calling on the U.S. to recognize Arab East Jerusalem as part of Israel's undivided capital. Palestinians are condemning the proposal and say it may signal the end of the peace process. And the warring factions in the Republic of Congo are trying to organize a peace summit even as the French troops evacuate the capital. The French are pulling out because they believe their job of rescuing foreigners is over now, but their departure has spawned some of the fiercest fighting in days between rival factions.
Well, back in this country, a 5-alarm blaze guts the St. Philip's Neri Church in New York's Bronx neighborhood. The mayor, priests, and neighborhood parishioners look on as much of the 99-year-old building just collapses. Firefighters battled that blaze and heavy smoke from several tower ladders. Investigators still don't know what caused that fire. And authorities in Cleveland are investigating the cause of a fire at a steel plant. Now, that blaze began around 9:30 last night at LTV Steel, and firefighters have been fighting it all through the night and into the morning. No word on any injuries there.
In northeast Colorado, 2 creeks flood after 5 or 6 inches of rain. The downpour forced evacuation of dozens of homes in Holyoke, and some roads have even been closed. One local insurance agent says it's the worst flooding he has seen in 60 years. The water levels remain high there, and hopefully they won't get any more rain. We had some rain around here this morning, though.
Yes, we did. Not as much as that,
No.
and not as much as some of the folks in northwest Missouri, as much as 3 or 4 inches. Not too far from Kansas City, but we got away with just about 1/4 of an inch here in St. Louis, and there could be a little more rain on the way today. We are watching for a couple of isolated thunderstorms which may try and develop during the afternoon heat. Let's show you the satellite pictures from early this morning and into early this afternoon. The rain and thunderstorms have now pushed off to the south and east and pretty much dissipated. We are waiting for clear skies to move in. Currently mostly sunny right now out over Columbia, and we have partly sunny skies officially out at Lambert International Airport. Now, the temperatures right now are responding to the partial sunshine as we warm up through the 70s. Our current temperature at the airport is 76, 79 out in KC, but look at Omaha, full sunshine all day. They're already up to 84. We should get up to about 82 this afternoon, and with a weather front very nearby, I can't rule out an isolated storm, but I think the main focus for storms will shift to our south this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
All right.
We'll talk to you again. Well, straight ahead, what next for Timothy McVeigh after the conviction?
Well, next to face prosecution is McVeigh's friend and alleged partner Terry Nichols, and we'll take a look.
And then later, we'll take a hard look at ourselves as Americans as the president calls for a national dialogue on race. Stay with us.
You're watching Fox 2 News. Here's to all the participants in the Relay for Life, an 18-hour run-walk event that raised money for the American Cancer Society.
Fox Summer Blast continues with the world's most outrageous